Chapter 13. Ethan moved into the basement area of Leah's home. Leah returned to classes and schoolwork, and by the end of the first week, Ethan had proved himself nearly indispensable to the household. While Ethan still didn't have a full-time job, Neil managed to keep him busy caring for his cars and doing major repairs around the property. That young man can fix anything, Neil told Leah, and he'll eat anything too, Leah said. He eats Mother's cooking as if he actually likes it. Neil chuckled but admonished. She's not that bad a cook. Leah didn't argue, but she looked forward to the nights when takeout food was on the menu. At school, Leah settled back into classes, but as soon as the final bell rang, she headed straight for her home and Ethan. He had been with them only a couple of weeks when the two of them drove into town for a movie. They were in the ticket line when Sherry bumped into them. "Hi," she said, giving Ethan a curious stare. Leah introduced them. "Want to sit with us?" she asked. "Love to," Sherry said with a grateful smile. After the movie, they went for hamburgers. The minute Ethan left the table to order more food, Sherry leaned toward Leah. "So this is the Amish boyfriend you used to mention?" "That's right." "And you talked your mother into letting him move in with you?" "It's just for a while, until he gets some things worked out." Leah didn't tell Sherry about the search for Ethan's missing brother, only that Ethan had some family problems. Sherry leaned back into the booth and gave Leah an admiring look. "I'm totally impressed. Have you ever thought of politics as a career choice? I mean, if you can persuade your mom to let the guy you're dating live with you, you must be some talker." Leah laughed. "It was an easy sell, believe me, but Ethan's so nice and he helps around the place so much. Even my mother is beginning to depend on him." She frowned. "Still, it would be good if he could get a real job. I know it's starting to bother him that he isn't giving Neil and Mom money for his keep." Sherry stirred her milkshake with a straw. "Maybe my dad can use him." "Really, what's your dad do?" "He's a veterinarian. He has practice out on Mill Road. He takes care of farm animals and house pets, too. I help out in the summers, but lately he's been talking about getting someone to help him in the field. Birthing season is just beginning for the farmers. Since Ethan's Amish, he probably knows a lot about animals." Leah nodded enthusiastically. "He knows tons. Would you ask your dad about giving Ethan a job?" "Sure, and I'll call you." "That's really nice of you, Sherry." Sherry shrugged self-consciously. "It's no big deal. You're my friend and I'd like to help you out. And besides, Ethan's nice, not to mention totally gorgeous." "I'll tell him you said so." Sherry shrieked and her face turned red. "Don't you dare." "Don't you dare what?" Both girls started, then looked up to see Dave Simmons, who had appeared beside their booth. Leah stiffened, remembering their last encounter. "Private conversation," she told him. "Don't eavesdrop." Dave held up his hands in mock surrender. "Well, excuse me, the princess has spoken. Let the world stop spinning." Sherry sat mute as a post, her face reddening even more. "Leah, is there a problem?" Ethan had come alongside the table. He set his food tray down. Dave turned, then gave Ethan a hostile gaze. "Who are you?" "Ethan Longacre." Dave looked Ethan up and down. "You aren't from around here. Where do you go to school?" "I do not go to school." Leah's heart thundered. She didn't like Dave's attitude. Ethan didn't understand the threat Dave represented. Dave said to Leah, "I never figured you falling for a dropout, or is he just stupid?" "Get lost," Leah told him. "I'm Amish," Ethan said, as if that would explain everything. Dave rolled his eyes. Even worse. Suddenly, Sherry's milkshake slapped across the table, landing on the front of Dave's jeans. "Whoops," she cried, looking horrified. The pale white glop rolled down his pant leg. Dave jumped back, swearing. Ethan stared at him. "You are rude," he said to Dave, "and we do not want your company." "Go away," Leah said, "before I call the manager." People's heads turned in their direction and conversation fell off. Desperately, Leah hoped Dave would notice and not cause any more of a scene. Dave glared menacingly, swore at Ethan and Leah, and stalked off. He stopped, grabbed a handful of napkins, and mopped his pants. He turned long enough to say, "Listen, Amish boy, if you know what's good for you, you'll stay out of my way." Ethan turned his back on Dave. "He is not nice." Leah's hands were shaking. "He's mean, Ethan. Don't mess with him." Ethan grinned. "He is like a dog locked behind a fence. He barks but has little courage." Leah started to argue her point, but then she remembered Sherry. "You all right?" she asked. "Sure," Sherry said, looking acutely embarrassed. Leah was fuming. "Dave's a jerk. He shouldn't have said those things. Good thing you had that accident." "It wasn't exactly an accident," Sherry said with a sheepish grin. Leah returned her smile gleefully. "Good for you. Too bad you couldn't have dumped it on his head." "I will buy you another," Ethan said. "No, it's okay, really. I've lost my appetite." Sherry stood and slipped on her coat. "I've got to be going anyway, Leah. I'll call you after I talk to my dad. And Ethan, it was nice meeting you. I'm sorry Dave was so rude. We're not all that way." Leah and Ethan watched her leave. When they were alone, Ethan said, "I'm sorry for your friend's feelings. What is Dave's problem?" "He doesn't like you." "He doesn't even know me." Leah briefly explained how she kept turning down dates with Dave. "A guy like him thinks he's God's gift to the world. He can't take no for an answer. Still, I'd have thought he would have gotten over it by now. His anger is foolish, but it does not bother me." "It bothers me," Leah said. "You be careful, Ethan. Stay far away from him." "I do not fear him." Leah knew it was the truth, but she feared for Ethan. In his heart he was still a plain person, but the world around him was different from his world in Napanee. In his area, kids might not understand about the Amish, and they might not treat him with kindness. "Just be careful," she said again, feeling the gulf between her and Ethan opening up once more. On Sunday evening, while Leah and Ethan were playing Monopoly, Neil came and sat down at the table. "Who's winning?" "Ethan," Leah grumbled. "He has the best luck. Look, he owns all the railroads, plus Boardwalk and Park Place." Ethan's blue eyes studied the chance card he'd just drawn. "I've gotten an inheritance of $500. Leah groaned and counted out 5 Monopoly bills from the bank. "Let's take a break," Neil said. "I want to talk to you about finding this brother of yours." Ethan leaned forward. "Yes?" "I've been giving it a lot of thought," Neil said. "Tell me everything you know about him." "I know nothing." "Wait," Leah interjected. "Didn't you tell me you ran into one of his old teachers once?" "You told me she said Eli was finishing college and going to become a teacher." Neil said, "Did he become a teacher?" "I do not know." Neil considered the dilemma. Watching his face, Leah was again struck by how thin he looked. "I'll call the Indiana State Board of Education and ask if there's a teacher in the state named Eli Longacre," Neil said. "And if there is not, then I'll contact teaching organizations in surrounding states. If that turns up nothing, we'll try national groups." "But what if he's not a teacher?" "There are other ways of finding people," Neil said. He found a yellow pad of paper in a desk drawer. "Right now, I want you to tell me everything you can remember about your brother." He took notes while Ethan answered his questions. Once he was satisfied, he said, "I won't give up, Ethan. We'll find out something about Eli. Thank you for your help. I am in much debt to you." Neil shook his head. "No debt, Ethan. I know what it's like to want to know about your family. My parents are dead, and my only brother died in World War II. Except for Leah and her mom, I have no family at all. But I've always wanted one. The bigger the better." Leah rose and gave Neil a quick hug. His cheek felt dry and papery against hers. "Well, I want to thank you too. I knew you could help Ethan." Neil patted her back. "We all need help, now and again. I'm glad to be able to offer it to you. You're a good man, Ethan. I hope you find your brother, and I hope you won't be disappointed in what you find." "How do you mean?" Ethan asked, looking puzzled. "People change," Neil said. "Sometimes for the worse." Up until that moment, it had never occurred to Leah that finding Eli might not be a pleasant experience. She locked gazes with Ethan and saw instantly that it had not occurred to him either. Her mother's words from the New Year's Day came back to her. "Be careful. You might not like what you find."